What really happened behind the scenes of St. Elmo's Fire? The 1985 coming-of-age drama helped define an entire generation and cemented its young cast as members of Hollywood's legendary Brat Pack. But while the cameras captured the friendships and romances on screen, the real-life stories unfolding behind the scenes were often even more dramatic. Secret relationships blossomed between cast members, one actress was pregnant during filming, and one of the film's biggest stars was quietly battling a dangerous drug addiction while trying to keep it hidden from the production. In this video, we'll uncover the surprising romances, behind-the-scenes challenges, casting secrets, and fascinating production stories that make St. Elmo's Fire one of the most intriguing films of the 1980s. Let's go! The inspiration for St. Elmo's Fire came from a painful chapter in screenwriter Carl Kurlander's own life. During an interview, he shared that while working as a bellhop at the St. Elmo Hotel, he fell hopelessly in love with a waitress who didn't return his feelings.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
That experience of unrequited love became the emotional backbone of the film in the role of Kirby Kager, played by Emilio Estevez. St. Elmo's Hotel was transformed to St. Elmo's Bar. The bar itself was modeled after the Tombs, a popular Georgetown hangout where students gathered, with the movie's set closely recreating its look and feel. More than 4 decades later, the Tombs is still open, forever linked to one of the most iconic coming-of-age films of the 1980s. Emilio Estevez and Demi began dating in the mid-1980s after becoming part of Hollywood's famous Brat Pack circle. Their relationship deepened during the period when they were working on St. Elmo's Fire, where Estevez played Kirby Kager and Moore portrayed Jules Van Patten. Although their romance had already begun before filming, spending months together on set strengthened their relationship, making them one of the era's most talked-about young celebrity couples. Their relationship became serious enough that they got engaged in 1985. According to Moore's memoir, Inside Out, the couple even began planning their wedding. However, during a 2-week breakup a few months before, he'd slept with an ex-girlfriend, lied about it, and then been forced to tell her the truth when he found out she was pregnant.
It was a rotten thing to do.
The revelation created trust issues that ultimately led her to end the engagement. Fun fact, the actress Mare Winningham was pregnant with her 3rd child during filming. One of Wendy Beamish's defining traits in St. Elmo's Fire was that she had graduated from college, but was still a virgin. Ironically, the opposite was true for the actress who was expecting a baby during production. In an interview with the screenwriter Carl Kurlander, he shared that the filmmakers chose to incorporate Winningham's pregnancy into the story by emphasizing Wendy's insecurities about her appearance and ongoing struggles with her weight, allowing the actress's growing baby bump to blend naturally into the character's arc.
Do I look fat?
In the film, Demi portrayed Jules, a young woman whose life was spiraling because of a serious cocaine addiction. Tragically, Moore was facing a similar battle off-screen. According to reports, her substance abuse became so severe that she was once sent home from the set after arriving under the influence. Before filming could continue, Moore entered a brief rehabilitation program to overcome her addiction. After completing treatment, she returned to the production and delivered one of the film's most memorable performances, bringing an added layer of authenticity to Jules's emotional struggles. The casting of St. Elmo's Fire almost looked completely different.
You're kidding, right?
What?
Emilio Estevez was originally supposed to play Billy, the role that eventually went to Lowe before switching to Kirby. And get this, Robert Downey Jr. was also considered for Billy. Demi wasn't the studio's only choice for Jules either. Jennifer Beals, Jodie Foster, Tatum O'Neal, and Joan Cusack were all connected to the role. Meanwhile, the part of Leslie had actresses like Brooke Shields, Meg Ryan, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Sarah Jessica Parker in the mix. Even Matthew Broderick and Diane Lane reportedly turned down roles. It's pretty wild to imagine anyone else playing these characters, because this cast eventually became one of the most iconic ensembles of the 1980s.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
One of the movie's funniest running gags, the Booga Booga chant, was actually inspired by a real-life joke shared by Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, and Lowe. After a real-life hangout together at a club, The trio would often get mad at wealthy foreign men chatting together while effortlessly attracting the women they were hoping to meet.
You're jealous!
They mimicked the conversations by making up gibberish sounds like turning their frustration into a private joke. That off-screen gag eventually found its way into the film, becoming one of its most memorable moments. Although St. Elmo's Fire follows a group of recent Georgetown University graduates, the school wasn't interested in being part of the production and turned down the filmmaker's request to shoot on campus. Instead, the University of Maryland welcomed the cast and crew, providing many of the college scenes seen in the film.
I like this school too.
It's hard to believe, but in 1985, Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, and Judd Nelson played recent college graduates in St. Elmo's Fire, the very same year they starred as high school students in John Hughes's The Breakfast Club. The dramatic shift in roles didn't happen by accident. Producer Lauren Schuler Donner later revealed that all three actors landed parts in St. Elmo's Fire after receiving glowing recommendations from Hughes, whose confidence in their talent helped open the door to the project. Ironically, after playing a recent college graduate in St. Elmo's Fire, Andrew McCarthy headed right back to high school. Just a year later, in 1986, he reunited with Molly Ringwald to star in Pretty in Pink. According to the definitive Brat Pack history book, You Couldn't Ignore Me If You Tried, the studio wasn't sold on the title St. Elmo's Fire. Executives worried audiences wouldn't understand its meaning and suggested replacing it with alternatives such as Sparks or The Real World, years before that name became synonymous with the hit MTV reality series.
No.
Director Joel Schumacher, however, stood by the writer's original vision and ultimately kept the title St. Elmo's Fire. St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion, became one of the biggest hits of 1985, but surprisingly, it wasn't really written about the movie. Producer David Foster recruited British singer John Parr to create the film's theme song. But Parr found inspiration in Rick Hansen, the Canadian athlete who was beginning his incredible wheelchair journey around the world to raise awareness for spinal cord injuries. He blended Hansen's story of determination with a few references to the movie, creating an uplifting anthem about chasing your dreams. The gamble paid off. Released in 1985, the song shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, became John Parr's biggest hit, and ultimately became even more famous than St. Elmo's Fire itself. Today, it's remembered as one of the defining songs of the Brat Pack era and one of the most iconic movie theme songs of the 1980s. One of the most memorable images from St. Elmo's Fire isn't the romance or the drama. It's Rob Lowe's character, Billy Hicks, sweating through an over-the-top saxophone solo in a bar while wearing his now iconic bat print shirt. The scene became one of the defining visual moments of the movie and, in many ways, of 1980s pop culture itself. The funny part? Rob Lowe couldn't actually play the saxophone. Like many actors portraying musicians, he mimed the performance while a professional musician's recording played over the scene. Years later, Lowe admitted that there wasn't even a reed in the saxophone during filming, meaning the instrument couldn't have produced a sound. He joked that his secret to looking convincing was the neck veins, essentially acting as though he was putting every ounce of effort into the performance. To make Billy look authentic, Lowe studied the stage presence of legendary E Street Band saxophonist Clarence Clemons. His fake performance was so believable that it fooled some famous people. Lowe has recalled that legendary producer Quincy Jones once watched the scene and assumed he was a real saxophonist. Even more surprising, David Foster, who wrote the St. Elmo's Fire theme, used to have a gag where he would call Rob for charity events to fake play the sax. Even former President Bill Clinton, an actual saxophone player, sent Lowe an invitation to perform at the White House because he believed the actor really played. Lowe has laughed about both stories, calling them proof that Hollywood movie magic can be incredibly convincing. That's all for today, my friends. If you enjoyed this video, click the next one on the screen. Thanks for watching.